Picture a small child sitting alone in a vast stone palace, while grown men in fur and jewels shove past him, arguing over who actually rules in his name. Nobody in that room bows to him. Nobody protects him. That child grows up to become one of the most feared rulers in history. But here's what almost nobody remembers. For the first years of his reign, he wasn't a tyrant at all. He was one of the most effective reformers Russia had ever seen. Most people only know the name Ivan the Terrible for what came later. The paranoia, the secret police, the son he's said to have killed with his own hands. But almost none of that popular image explains where any of it actually came from. What happened to him before he became that man? And how much of it, if any, was already set in motion while he was still a child, too young to understand what was happening around him? Serious historians still don't fully agree on the answer. Here's what's actually documented. Ivan was born in 1530. His father, Grand Prince Vasily III, died when Ivan was only 3 years old, leaving the throne to a child. His mother, Elena Glinskaya, ruled as regent in his place, until she too died suddenly, when Ivan was just 8. Her death has long been suspected as a poisoning, though historians note the evidence remains circumstantial rather than conclusively proven. What followed is well documented, and it's genuinely disturbing. For years afterward, rival boyar families fought violently for control of the Tsar's court. Contemporary accounts describe Ivan being neglected, humiliated, and denied basic necessities by the same nobles who were supposed to be raising him. Picture the specific scene chroniclers describe. Rival boyars striding through the palace in fur and jewels, ignoring the child Grand Prince entirely, sometimes even seizing his father's belongings and his mother's jewelry in front of him, while he had no power to stop any of it. By his own later account, he remembered being fed poorly and dressed shabbily, treated less like a ruler than like a burden the court was forced to tolerate. Their power struggles occasionally turned lethal. One of the leading boyars during Ivan's minority, Andrei Shuisky, was seized and killed on the orders of a rival faction while Ivan was still a child looking on. Then in January of 1547, at 16 years old, Ivan did something no Muscovite ruler had ever formally done before. He insisted on being crowned not merely Grand Prince, the traditional title, but Tsar, a deliberate claim to the same imperial status as the Byzantine emperors before him. 2 weeks later, he married Anastasia Romanovna. Then, just months after his coronation, Moscow burned. A catastrophic fire in June of 1547 destroyed huge sections of the city and killed hundreds. Rumors spread that Ivan's own maternal relatives, the Glinsky family, had caused it through sorcery. A furious mob stormed the Cathedral of the Dormition, the very church where Ivan had been crowned only months earlier, and murdered his uncle in front of the altar. The teenage Tsar had just watched his own family's blood spilled inside a church, in the same city he now ruled. And yet what came immediately after this is the part almost nobody remembers. With a group of trusted, reform-minded advisors, historians called the Chosen Council, young Ivan spent the next several years building, not destroying. In 1549, he convened Russia's first-ever Zemsky Sobor, a national assembly bringing together nobles, clergy, and other representatives, something close to an early parliament. He ordered a complete revision of Russia's legal code, producing the Sudebnik of 1550, and created the country's first permanent standing army, a corps of professional soldiers called the Streltsy, equipped with early firearms rather than relying purely on levied nobility. He also introduced elements of local self-government in rural regions, letting communities elect some of their own administrators rather than answering only to appointed nobles. Many serious historians consider this stretch, roughly 1547 to 1560, the single most successful period of Ivan's entire reign. And then came Kazan. For 2 centuries, Tatar Khanates descended from the Mongol Golden Horde had raided and threatened Russian territory. In 1552, Ivan personally led an army of well over 100,000 men against the Khanate of Kazan. Russian engineers dug tunnels beneath the city's walls and packed them with gunpowder. When the mines detonated, they tore open the fortifications, and Ivan's soldiers stormed through the breach after weeks of brutal siege warfare. It reversed the entire historical balance of power between Russia and the Tatars in a single campaign. 4 years later, Astrakhan fell as well, giving Moscow control of the entire Volga River, from its headwaters all the way to the Caspian Sea. At 26 years old, Ivan had rewritten Russian law, built its first real parliament, created a modern army, and doubled the reach of the Russian state. So how do serious historians actually explain what happened next? The descent into the paranoid violence that earned him his name. Here, honest sources genuinely disagree. One school of thought points backward, to childhood, arguing that years of neglect and witnessed violence left permanent psychological damage that specific later events simply triggered. Another argues that's too tidy an explanation, and that Ivan functioned as a genuinely capable, rational ruler for over a decade, which suggests something more specific. A real betrayal, a real loss, must have caused the change, rather than trauma that had already been sitting there the whole time. Neither side has definitive proof. The honest answer is that no one, not historians, not psychologists working centuries after the fact, can fully reconstruct what was happening inside the mind of a 16th century Tsar. What we can say for certain is only this: whatever was building underneath the surface during these successful years, it hadn't visibly broken through yet. The public record, for now, is one of genuine competence. So picture that same neglected child again, the one nobody protected, growing into a young ruler who built law codes and armies and conquered ancient enemies. For 13 years, that's the actual documented story of Ivan the Terrible, and it looks almost nothing like the name he's remembered by. Something changes after this. In the next few years, the same man who built Russia's first parliament will instead build one of history's most feared secret police states. Historians still argue about exactly why. What's certain is that it starts with a single death, and that's where this story turns.